Hi and welcome to another Mixed Media Tuesday. Today I'm going for an art journal page that has the same look and feel as the one I shared last week. So I'm working on a craft page and I'm creating a quick and easy background that you can do in no time just by using a distress oxide inks. So I started with broken china and I inked up a couple of edges, always on a diagonal, and then I'm going over stencil just to add some visual texture. I'm not going to cover up completely the whole thing, but I'm going to bring in a new ink, this is Vintage Photo, just to add some extra touches. So again, for today I'm going for a vintage look and feel, that's why I started with browns and blues. It's one of my favorite color combinations for backgrounds when I'm going for a vintage look. And I am going to play with ephemera later to create a cluster on top of this page. I know that lots of this background is going to be covered up, so don't worry too much about it, just make sure that you have some visual texture and a touch of color back there. I also inked up the edges with Vintage Photo and went over it with a little bit of black Soot just to add a darker border. And now let's add some messy touches. For that I'm going to use my stencil again and I will go over it with my spray. This is going to react with the Distress Oxide ink and as it dries it's going to give a different look and feel on the background. I am also going to add some water splashes, this is just water that I'm adding now. And since we are doing splashes, let's add some black ones as well. I just swipe my ink pad on the glass mat, dilute it with water, and with my brush I add the splashes. I always like to add black splashes when I'm going for a vintage look and feel, since I know that I will have on the project lots of black accents. Next step is to do some stamping, but for that I need to make sure that the first layer of color is completely dry. Then I'm using one of my text stamps and I'm going to stamp in some areas. Just like always, I'm not going for the perfect impression here. I'm using my fingers to stamp, not even using a stamping block, and I went with black archival ink. Again, remember this is a completely random process and I don't know exactly what I'm going to create on top. I know that I'm going to play with ephemera and lots of this background is going to be covered. Just have fun while you create this layer and we'll see what happens at the end. Here I'm using also a circle stamp. I like to add some circles on my background as well. And now I'm happy with the background. Let's move on and work on the ephemera. These type of projects are great to use up the ephemera that you have been collecting throughout the years. So here is a bag of Tim Holtz flashcards. There are 3 different sizes and they are full of inspirational words front and back. For this page I decided to go with the word friend. And that's how everything starts for this page. This is where I decide what theme this project is going to have. So I went through my mini paper dolls and I placed them inside this box, makes it really easy to look through them. And remember last week I used the boys, today I'm using the girls, they are all laughing so they don't creep me out and I think they give a lovely fun note on this friendship themed art journal page. And I want to create a page about friends living far away, so I decided to go with a map. I do have this booklet which is full of maps, vintage maps actually, so they match perfectly with a vintage look and feel. And that's the map that I'm going for. At this stage I'm not going to stick anything down, I'm just playing around with the ephemera, trying to decide what looks best. And once I'm happy with the composition, I will stick everything down. So for this one I decided to cut it out with my scissors, just to get that curve on the globe. Then I have this bag with tons of vintage papers that I'm trying to add at the back. At this stage I'm just choosing and playing with colors. I like to make sure that the colors that I add behind the girls are going to help them stand out. One option is to tint the girls if you like. You can color their clothes, their faces. I usually don't do that, but it is definitely an option. Now here is where I'm tearing off the bottom part of this page, I thought that this is going to show, it's not going to show at the end anyway, and I'm also going to ink up all the edges of all my ephemera with vintage photo. This is going to help them stand out against each other, and at the same time it gives them all the same look and feel, the same tint of color that I have on the background. So it is a little detail that is going to bring all the different elements together, making them actually part of the same project. So I glued everything down up to now by using my white glue, and now I'm going to move on to the smaller ephemera just to add some extra accents and extra color on different areas. And when I was creating my cluster with the bigger elements, I was smart enough not to add glue all the way to the edges, so it is easier for me to tuck underneath different ephemera. Now I am going with little circles just to introduce different shapes, and the pack that I'm using here has tons of them. These are the snippets, the ephemera snippets. And just like always, down below in the description area you will find the links to everything I used, as well as a coupon code to a couple of places that I like to buy ephemera as well. Before I stick any of these elements down, if you notice, I always go around the edges with my blending tool just to add that touch of brown. And now I grabbed another pack of ephemera snippets. This has long labels with numbers, and I like to combine different shapes on my clusters. That's why I switch from pack to pack. And you can go on forever adding layers upon layers really, but here is a tip on how you can bring everything together. I'm going to do some stamping on all the elements. As I'm stamping, I'm making sure that I go over my ephemera as well as the background. It's a little detail that brings everything together, and it is a tip that I did on the previous video last week as well. That time I did that with ribbons. Today I'm just showing you how you can do it with a simple stamp. Now I want to add a pop of color, that's why I'm bringing those stickers. These are transparent acetate stickers, and they blend lovely with the project since you can kind of see through what's behind. So I am going to use that fern as well. I'm cutting everything to make it fit for my project, and I'm just creating a little cluster of greenery in one side of the girls. By the way, these are not very forgiving stickers, so you need to make sure that once you place them down, you place them correctly. But again, this is an art journal, we are not going for perfection here, so don't worry too much if something isn't straight. You can definitely make it look as if it was intentional. And here again I'm using another pack of those acetate stickers. This time I'm going with a butterfly, and I chose to go with a black and white one just because I didn't want to add a pop of color up there, but I still wanted to add something extra. And let's do some white splashes. For that I'm using acrylic paint, which is in a form of a spray. I like to apply it with a brush, and I cover up the faces of my girls just to make sure that I don't end up having splashes on top of their faces. I printed out my quote, and if you are wondering, this little gadget that I have, it is the pulley printer. It is a thermal printer, by the way. I like to have those type of gadgets in my craft room, but you can definitely use your printer to print out your sentiment, your quote. I am using my scissors to make it into thin strips. And this is sticker paper, by the way, so all I have to do is to just peel it off and stick it down. My quote says, "True friends are never apart, maybe at distance, but never in heart." And this is the last step. I'm not going to do any highlights with my white gel pen for today. If you are still with me, don't forget to leave me a comment as well as hit the like button. Here are some close-up photos where you can see the details better. I hope that you had fun today, that you got inspired to bring out your ephemera, create clusters for easy and quick pages. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.